Shock and awe in Europe. In Munich, Germany, America declared it stands against what the European Union wants. Shock and awe. This is how the Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera describes Europe's reaction to the speech of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance in Munich. The thunder after this speech not only does not subside, but it becomes more and more threatening. It even got to the point that the French Le Monde wrote, "In Munich, Vance declared ideological conflict on Europe. Yes, the rhetoric has reached that point." The Europeans criticizing the Vice President's speech do not even realize how comical their angry attacks are in response to his words that they do not have freedom of speech. Anyone who saw the faces of the audience at the moment of Vance's speech can confirm that it resembles the final scene of the classic fairy tale about the naked king, the king with no clothes. In the original story, the king, in order not to look foolish, simply kept walking after hearing a child cry out about his nakedness. But now it seems as if we are living the continuation of this fairy tale, where the entire court is trying to convince everyone that the king is wearing the most fashionable and elaborate attire. And only the uneducated mob and this impudent chatty boy from the other side of the Atlantic cannot see the wonderful fabric that the exquisite and with the exquisite colors. It's astonishing how arrogant Europe is and how unprepared it is to accept the bitter truth about itself. Until now, the idea that the EU has aggressively suppressed democracy within itself, imposing an absolute liberal dictatorship and censorship, was immediately branded as Russian propaganda, but bureaucrats in Brussels did not yet have the courage to label the US Vice President as a Kremlin agent. Until recently, such statements would have been immediately suppressed by the numerous social media censors called fact-checkers, but after the dissolution of USAID, no one pays them anymore, and so they fell silent. Not that there are not some European newspapers trying to expose Vance's black magic, quote-unquote. For example, The Guardian tried to refute every argument the American made, but in reality it simply confirmed with examples what he said. It's understandable that Vance's words caused particular irritation in Germany. The mainstream media and politicians were quick to accuse the Americans of interfering in their elections using harsh language. The Greens Party candidate for Chancellor, Robert Habeck, told Vance to mind his own business, quote-unquote, and not interfere in the German election campaign. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, speaking from the same stage in Munich, called American interference in the German elections unacceptable. For some reason, however, no one in Germany was bothered when the German foreign minister openly participated in the American electoral campaign, publicly endorsing Joe Biden over Donald Trump. It's funny to hear Europeans accuse Vance of destroying traditional alliances and Western values. The Danish newspaper Jyllands-Posten even warned that the Americans were preparing to take away these same moral values, but all Vance did was remind them of democracy and freedom of speech, principles that once formed the foundations of the Western world. The most striking comment came from Belgium's new foreign minister, Maxime Prévost, and read his words carefully as published in the Standard. He said, "I believe that there are much more serious problems in Europe than freedom of speech. We should remember these revelations of the European establishment, remind them of them every time some human rights defender comes to preach to us about democracy and freedom." Particularly revealing is the fact that, as an expert on freedom of speech, the European propaganda invoked Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. The faltering leader of Kiev, also present in Munich, was quick to refute Vance, stating that he considers Europe, quote, the most tolerant and democratic society in the world, end quote. What an irony. The most characteristic thing, however, is that Zelensky said these words shortly after his decision to strip Ukrainian citizenship from those who demand democratic elections in Ukraine. Despite all this, no one in Munich conference hall reacted. It's no coincidence that many Western media outlets compare Vance's speech to Vladimir Putin's historic speech at the Munich conference in 2007. Jyllands-Posten notes, the experienced participants remember 2007, when the Russian president spoke of a new world order. Europe understood too late what he meant. Now Europeans must understand that J.D. Vance means exactly what he said. The king is naked, and that is the end of the classic fairy tale. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. My Patreon account, the daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.